I want you to go with me tonight to the book of 1 Peter, if you would, and get the 5th chapter opened up in front of you. 1 Peter chapter 5. If you would, get that opened up in front of you. I thank you for coming. I know, as has been mentioned, some may be watching online. I will tell you this, I understand. I've been in those positions in which I've had to stay home and I've had to watch a service online due to health reasons. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity to communicate to those folks. But I would say to you, if you can physically quickly get back to church, there's something about being with the Lord's people in the same building and lifting your voice together with them and singing and rejoicing with the goodness of the Lord. So I hope that you can plan to be back if you physically are able to do so. If you will notice in the book of 1 Peter, as you would read the book of 1 Peter, you will find something from his writing that is found in both epistles, 1 and 2 Peter, that is threaded throughout. Peter is concerned. It's almost as if he can sense the hurting of his friends that he's writing to. You see, the church that he was communicating with, his church friends that he was writing to, were hurting because of a great deal of serious persecution that was going on. Nero was the Caesar at the time, and he was crazy. I mean, he was nutty. I mean, the name Nero, I think anybody who knows anything about him, no one's ever named their kid Nero. I don't think it's the name that you may name your dog Nero, but you don't name your kid. Now, if your name is Nero, I think it's a wonderful name. Fine, if your grandmother was named Nero, fine, whatever. But the point is, it's not a name that we usually cling to because of the history of this crazy guy. It really is true that he fiddled while Rome burnt down to the ground. You see, Nero had such an insatiable desire to build. He loved construction that he ran out of space in Rome proper, to where he ordered for much of it to be burnt down so that he could rebuild some new buildings. And the people of Rome were furious. They despised their government. Some things sometimes don't change much, but they were angry with decisions that the government was making. And as a result of it, Nero, trying to deflect the responsibility, said, "Oh, no, I'm not the one responsible." Again, some things don't ever change. He said, it's someone else, and he pointed a finger at the Christians. He said, it's that group, it's that sect of people called Christ followers, those Christians. They're the ones responsible for burning down Rome. And so let's punish them. And so the rise of persecution began to come at an exorbitant level. I don't have time to review all the things that took place. They began to build the amphitheaters and the stadiums within which Christians were thrown into an arena with wild animals attacking them, to the satisfaction of the Roman citizenry as they watched their people that were called Christians being devoured by wild animals. Can you imagine the depravity of the human mind? So many other things would take place during that time. In order to have night games, they would dip some Christians into some kind of a oil or pitch of some sort and strap them to a post and put them up on high and then light them up to provide lights for the night games. And in that environment, Peter writes these letters. And he's saying to them, I know you're under a great deal of a fiery trial. That's why he said, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial, which is to try you, as though some strange thing happened unto you. But rejoice, because you get to partake in the sufferings of Christ. And we come to the portion of his letter, his first epistle, what we call chapter 5. You know, of course, he didn't write with chapter divisions, but he starts addressing the church leaders. He says to the church elders, he talks to them as to how to pastor the people. And he tells them, he says, don't lord over them. Don't try to dictate everything in their life. Lead them and feed them. Shepherd the flock. And then he says to the young, you'll notice in verse 5, he says, likewise ye younger. Now that refers to both age and stage of Christian life. Those young in the Lord and those that are growing, which we all are a part of. He says, you younger, submit yourselves unto the elder, the spiritual leaders. Yea, all of you be subject one to another. In other words, minister to each other, and be clothed with humility. Now, in case we didn't get it, he decides to quote a verse from the Proverbs. Here it is. For God resisteth the proud, and giveth grace to the humble. And in case we still don't have it, he comes to verse 6 and he says, humble yourselves therefore under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. Now, the idea of being exalted in due time does not mean he's going to exalt you to a point in which everybody's going to look at you and say, boy, what a wonderful person you are. Oh, you must be a super saint, super Christian. Oh, he'll exalt you in the eyes of... That's not what he's saying. The idea there is that he will lift you up. The idea is you have struggled with the problems and the trials, the hardships of life. So just keep yourself under the mighty hand of God. God knows what he's doing. Humble yourselves under his hand, that he may lift you up in his own time. Then he says in verse 7, casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. Be sober. Be vigilant, that is, be alert, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walks about, seeking whom he may devour. Wild animals in the wild will attack a wounded animal, because that animal can't run fast. And that devouring lion will attack a wounded animal. They also attack young animals. And that's what the devil's doing, like a devouring lion today. He attacks the young and he attacks wounded believers. And so he says to them, keep your eyes open, because he's a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. Verse 9, whom resist steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world. But the God of all grace, who hath called us unto his eternal glory by Christ Jesus, after that you have suffered a while, make you perfect, establish, strengthen, and settle you. To him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. You know, we used to live in Indianapolis, and really didn't have any bearing to the story that we're telling right now, but I was at a camp one summer out in California, and Lynn was at home, and she had some projects she was going to work on at the house. She was going to do some painting and make some curtains for a room or two, I think, and so she was trying to maximize her time while she was home. And I got a call from her one morning. I was getting ready to go to a morning chapel there at that camp, and she said, Morris, something's wrong with my car. It's making all kinds of racket, all kinds of noise. Now, I am not a mechanic, okay? I mean, I may pop a hood like I know what I'm doing, but I don't have a clue. I can't fix anything. So she's sharing this with me, and the husband in me kicked in. I said, okay, well, what did it sound like? What do you mean? She said, well, I tried to back it out, and she said it's making all kinds of squawking, scratching, terrible noises, and she described it for me as being something outside of the engine, outside maybe around the wheels. And I said, I think I may know what that is. I said, that may be brake pads need to be replaced. I said, they make horrible sounds when it's going down like that. And I said, it always sounds worse than what it is. I said, you've got time. You can drive it up the road to some mechanic and let them replace the brake pads. And she said, I'm a little nervous about getting out in the car like this. She said, what if I break down? You're not here to help me. What can I do? And I said, yeah, I don't want you breaking down. I'm 2,000 miles away. I said, we can't have that, so I don't know what to do. And she said, well, what can we do? And I said, I don't know. And I said, give me give me a moment to think. And finally I said, I tell you what, let's hang up and let me just think for a second. I said, I don't know what to do. Now look, folks, when you're an evangelist, the Evangelists can tell you, you're hardly ever home. And I'm never hardly ever at the house. I don't know a mechanic. I don't know anybody to turn to. I just don't know anybody. And so I said, let me just think. I don't know what to do. And so we hung up, and I thought, well, I've got two sons I could contact, but they know about as much as I do about car repair, which means we're all in trouble. And so I said, what can I do? And I got one son who's a youth pastor at the local church. The other one is a businessman working in a local industry. And I said, and they're both busy as can be. They can't help me, so I don't know who to call. Finally, I just said on a whim, why don't I just call one of my boys and just see if he's got an idea? I don't know. So I called our younger son. He's working at a company there in town. He never answers his phone. Never. And he answered his phone. And I said, hey, kid, I said, I can't believe you answering the phone. I said, Chad, look, I said, Mom, and I explained to him the situation. I said, Mom's got some errands to run, and her car's making all kinds of noise. And I said, I know you're busy at work. I know you can't do anything, but I just thought maybe you might have an idea of something we can do to get the car repaired. I just don't know what else to do about it. And I said, if you can give me some direction. He said, Dad, I got it. I said, you've got what? He said, I'll take care of it. And I didn't think at that point that he understood the situation. We needed to get the car fixed right away, you know. This thing needed to be taken care of. We were kind of limited in time. And I said, no, I said, son, we need to get onto this right away. He said, I know, Dad. He said, I can take care of it. I said, what do you mean you can take care of it? Yeah, I'm thinking, you're not a mechanic and you're at work. What do you mean? He said, Dad, look, I'm going on break. He said, I'll drive my car over to the house and let Mom have my car. She can do anything she wants to with it. I'll drive her car back up here to the shop. He said, I got 3 mechanics who work with us here. He said, at lunch, we'll take it apart. We'll find out what needs to be done. We'll get it repaired, and I'll get it back to Mom by the end of the day. And I said, yeah, but you're going to have to buy parts. And he said, yeah. He said, I'll go buy the parts. I said, okay, who is this? And what did you do with my son? I said, you're going to buy the parts? He said, I'll buy the parts. I said, what in the world is... He said, Dad, I'll take care of it. Now again, the husband in me, the father in me is still trying to figure out what can I do to contribute 2,000 miles away. And I said, okay, well, what do you need me to do? His answer was a classic answer. He said, hang up the phone. That's what I need you to do. I said, what do you mean? He said, Dad, you go do what you do. He said, you can't do anything about this. He said, you've told me about it. I'll take care of Mom. I'll go get to her. I can't call her and tell her I'm on my way until we hang up the phone. He said, it's all been taken care of. Don't even worry about it. Now, would you read verse 7 with me once again and listen to it like you've never heard it before? Like the people in Peter's day were hearing it for the very first time? When he said to them, casting all your care upon Him, for He careth for you. Lynn and I, sometimes we'll go in the airport and I watch these little kids at the baggage claim. You see some little, 3-year-old boy. His daddy just got off the plane. He's the daddy. I'm so glad seeing Dad's got this big fat briefcase. It's heavy. To that little boy, and he wants to help out his daddy, and typical little boy, he'll go over there and he'll try to pick it up, and he's got both hands, and he's doing everything he can. He's going to almost need a chiropractor by the time he's through lifting that thing up, and he can't do it. It's too heavy for him. And his dad says, son, that's too heavy. Here, let me have that. And Dad picks it up with a couple of fingers. That boy's trying to take something that he's not supposed to take. He's trying to take the father's load. And I'm looking at some folks here tonight that the truth is many of us are guilty of often living our life trying to carry something we have no business carrying. Do any of these words sound like you? Panicked, worried, fretful, depressed, scared, unsure, insecure, worried. You know, the medical world wants to medicate your worries away. There are religions out there that want you to meditate your worries away. God wants to eliminate your worries. And the fact is, most of us in this room know exactly what it is to walk in day-to-day life carrying the burdens and the cares of our life, thinking that somehow or another I've got to solve every issue that I'm facing and I'm dealing with. Do you remember when you were a little kid, you thought the cares of your life when you were a little kid were just so severe, you know, and you scraped a knee or you just had some little problem at school or some sort. Somebody kind of looked at you half crazy or something, and you didn't get invited to somebody's birthday party or something. And I mean, it was like, oh, this is bad. And when you're a little kid, you find yourself saying, I can't wait till I'm an adult. I can't wait till I grow up. I can't wait. I'm going to stay up till midnight when I'm a grown up. I'm going to eat ice cream at midnight when I grow up. What they don't know is when you grow up, you go to bed at 10 o'clock. You know, it's like, you know, you're just exhausted, you know, even though you could stay up if you wanted to. And when you're an adult, you look at little kids running around here outside and around the church. You know what you find yourself doing as an adult? Looking at little kids saying, boy, that was the day, wasn't it? Those were the times when we were little kids. We didn't have a care in the world. We spend our life thinking about, I'm carrying so much, I don't have anything to be happy about, or I'm full of burdens, and my life is full of care. At whatever age and stage you're at, you're thinking things are going to be so much better when something happens, when I get a little bit older, when I get that job, when I get that marriage, when I get this car, when I get... And Peter said to folks who were carrying loads that probably we don't even know much about, he was saying, cast all your care on Him. Because He cares for you. Did you know that 70 million Americans, I'm not much on stats, but 70 million Americans suffer with a particular problem. It causes 38,000 deaths in America every year. It costs $70 billion in productivity. Teenagers suffer with this. 64% of teenagers blame this issue on poor grades. Most severe cases occur between the ages of 30 and 40. And over 50% of people over 65 years of age suffer with this particular sickness. All kinds of treatments have been tried to be used to solve this problem. Mouth guards, herbal teas, I'm sure there's an oil for it. Medicines. What is this? What am I talking about? Is it chemical abuse? Someone going through a divorce? Long sermons? Being a Dallas Cowboy fan? Now that may be the problem right there. I know all about that one. What is it? It's restlessness, anxieties, fears, and cares. And we don't get much help in the world in which we live in. You know, there's never been a TV commercial to come on to tell you that here's a product that we're trying to sell, but you probably don't need it. It's okay. You know, your shampoo's good enough. You know what they do is they show you some woman with her hair all stuck to her head saying, are you going to live with that limp and unmanageable hair the rest of your life? I mean, here's our shampoo. It doesn't have any paraben in it. What in the world is paraben? I don't even know what that is. And this is the shampoo, or this is the telephone of the future. Oh, really? You mean my $900 small computer in my hand is worthless? Oh yeah, that's a piece of trash. Why, we've got something. You've got that 5G. Well, we've come out with a 17G. This is the thing of the future. It will vacuum carpets. It will brush your teeth. It'll occasionally make a phone call. This is the phone that you need. And you spend your life thinking, I don't have all the niceties of life that I really need. And we spend our life thinking, I wish I had all these things. And Peter is saying to his friends, cast all your care upon Him because He cares for you. What can we learn from this? Well, first of all, there is what I'm going to call the inevitable reality. The inevitable reality. Look at it again. Casting all your care upon Him. I'm not a Greek technician, but I want you to know the word care there is in the plural, which means all of your cares. No matter what you think someone else may consider to be insignificant, God is saying to you, cast all your cares upon me. Every one of them. It is an inevitable reality that you and I are going to have cares. Now, I'm not saying anything tonight that you don't already know. It's unavoidable. It's irrevocable. It's unalterable. It's unchangeable. It is inevitable. You're going to have cares. Like when you sit in the doctor's office, as Lynn and I did in January of 2018, and heard words that we had never heard before. And the doctor said, "You have multiple myeloma." I didn't even know what it was. I just knew I had terrible pain in my lower back. And after MRIs and X-rays, there would be biopsies. He said, "You have cancer." We came to find out, we didn't know till later on, that it's the number 2 cancer of the world. We asked all the questions you would tend to ask. How do you deal with it? And how long is this going to last? And I actually said to him, I said, "Can we just have surgery to cut out that little growth that you have found on my back, and just cut it out? I got to go preach." He said, "It's going to take several months." And our world came to a screeching halt. And every phone call I had to make and every person I had to contact and say, "I'm not going to be able to come. I don't know when I'll be back at it." And this is not tonight to tell a testimony about me. I told the Lord, and I told Him again tonight, I promised Him, if He'd give me another chance to get inside pulpits, I would tell people about what He did for me. That He allowed me to get back up on my feet to go preach again. For an entire year, we dealt with low dosages of chemo and had radiation, and then I had my own stem cells taken out of me and then put in storage, and then they pumped me with the heavy-duty chemo in order to get rid of all the rogue, bad cancer cells. And then when I was completely cleaned out of that and depleted of it, they put back inside of me my own stem cells. My doctor said to me, "Morris, did you know that those stem cells know exactly where to go? They go exactly where they're supposed to go." I said, "Do you think there's a divine creator?" He said, "I know there is." And I sat in the hospital. We stayed in the hospital for 17 days as I watched my immune system go all the way down and then slowly begin to rise again. They called that day of my stem cell bone marrow transplant, they called it my second birthday. I said, "I've already had one of those." I said, "This happens to be my third." The nurses came in and they sang "Happy Transplant Day." Brought us a birthday cake in, you know. I was so sick I didn't eat it, but I mean that's fine, you know. Thank you for this. They said it's like you're restarting life all over again. And I said, "Do I have to go back to junior high? I don't want to do junior high again. Will my voice crack again? I don't want to do all that again." And then almost to the day, friends, almost to the day, a year later, the transplant doctor looked at me and looked at all my numbers, and he said, "Well, you're in remission." And he said, "We're going to do everything we can to keep it there." And that's been almost 3 years, about 2.5 years, I guess I should say, right now. And there's not a day goes by that I don't praise the Lord. I have learned the value of every day. Oh, I'm not perfect. I'm not where I need to be. But I've recognized the brevity of life, the shortness of time, and there's a lot for us to be grateful for. Yeah, you're going to have cares. It may be a doctor's report that's going to shake your world. It can be a car accident that shakes your world. It can be a loss of employment that changes your direction. It can be a relationship issue that comes along. It can become something that you can't even verbalize, some emotional breakdown. You know, our emotions have been given to us from the Lord as a gift. Our emotions are a gift. They help color our life. They help us to enjoy relationships. They allow us to laugh and enjoy life. But emotions are to be our servants, not the masters of our lives. For when emotions start driving your life will be an up and down roller coaster ride. The psalmist said in Psalm 27, I would have fainted unless I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. He said, I would have passed out until I had discovered that God was going to bring goodness into my life in the land of the living. It's an inevitable reality, friends. You're going to have cares. Now look, if you're sitting here tonight and you say, Morris, I don't have any cares. Everything's going good for me. Everything's going fine. Hey, the bills are paid. My kid finally, graduated this year, finally got out of geometry, after the 4th year. I'm glad for that. And we've got good job security. And the car's running well, and it's really good. The dog came home and the cat ran away. It can't be any better. I'm telling you, life is sweet right now. You know what I say to you? I'm happy for you. And just keep going to bed at night and keep getting up in the morning. It's an inevitable reality that cares are going to come. You've lived long enough to know that. Sometimes our cares come because of things from our past. And I don't want to labor on every little thing, but sometimes it has to do with our past. Something that was done to us in the past, and we still carry it in our memory bank. Something that we did in our past, and we drag it along like a heavy weight, and we're trying to get through life thinking, why did I do that? If only I hadn't gone to that party. If only I hadn't taken that first drink. If only I hadn't gone to that website. If only I had not gone into the military, or if only I had have gone into the military. If only I hadn't made those decisions. If only I had had a different situation as a family growing up. Oh, if only. And you can spend the rest of your life dragging your past around, saying, oh, I'm so heavy laden, and I'm burdened down. And the truth is, you can become a person who is literally consumed with the cares of your past. I preached it in the morning service, the first service this morning. The Apostle Paul said, Brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, I'm reaching forth unto those things which are before. You don't excuse the past, you learn from the past and move on. You drive down the highway, you've got a little rearview mirror in which you can look through that rearview mirror and you can see where you've been, but you've got a big windshield to look forward to. If you were looking at the past all the time in that rearview mirror, you're going to have a wreck. And if you're driving down the road of life, you may glance back and say, yeah, I learned some lessons, but man, I got some things I got to do for the Lord. I got a bright future ahead. Some people, they let the past drag them down and they're carrying the heavy load. Some people, it's not the past, it's the present. Man, living, how am I going to deal with all these problems? All these bills I got to pay today. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get everything accomplished that's on my list of things that I've got to do today. I'm telling you, I just don't have enough time to get everything done in a day's time that's on my list to do. It's just heavy on me. I don't know what we're going to do. There was a woman in Jesus' day when he was on this earth. Her name was Martha. She loved the Lord, and he loved her, and he had to slow her down one day. Martha, chill. Now that's hidden in the Greek, but I think it must have been there. I'm not trying to be irreverent. I'm just trying to say Jesus in conversation was saying, Martha, catch your breath. You are careful. You are full of care about a number of things. I live there. Type A people get there. Am I going to get everything done? Sometimes it's the past. Sometimes it's the present. Are you with me? Many times it's the future. If you want a preacher's outline, it's the past, it's the present, it's the possibilities of the future. It's this world of what if. Oh. I wish Gleiser hadn't preached this sermon. I got a doctor's report coming up, and I got to go meet that doctor. Oh man, God's trying to get me ready. What if? What? And you can spend 2 or 3 days fretting over what the future holds. What if? What if I do lose my job? I got to talk to the boss this week. What if? What if that law gets passed? What if that person gets elected? They probably did. What if the cat comes home too? I mean, what if all these things that I've been so excited? What if? A woman came up to her pastor one day and she said, "Pastor, I think it really helps to worry. I know you often say don't worry, but I think it helps." He said, "No, ma'am. No, it doesn't help to worry." She goes, "Yeah." She goes, "I've discovered much of the things I worry about happening, they don't ever happen." So she said, "It must help to worry about it ahead of time." He said, "No, you've missed the point." Jesus, in that masterful sermon called the Sermon on the Mount, said to them, "Take no thought for tomorrow." You'll have enough grace and strength to face tomorrow when tomorrow comes. God's grace is in every place and in every time and place of your life. Are you fretting about something? Peter is saying to people, it's inevitable. Look, when he wrote this letter, he didn't say, now some of you who are receiving this letter, some of you are going to have some trials. Some of you are going to have some heavy loads. Now there's a handful of you who are getting this letter. You're never going to carry, you're not going to have any cares. You're not going to have any burdens. So just tolerate me for a few minutes while I talk to these people who are going to have cares. That's not what he's saying. He's saying every one of you are going to have cares, and you know it's true. Doesn't make any difference how old you are. It's going to take away sleep. It's going to take away a desire to eat. It's going to cause you to weep. It's going to do all kinds of things in your life. It's going to cause you to be fearful and fretful. It's going to affect your marriage. Many a marriage has been disturbed because of fretting spouses, husbands or wives, worrying. What are we going to do? It'll affect your marriage. It'll affect your mentoring, the raising of your kids. Many parents taking things out on their kids because they're worried about something else, and they take it out on their kids. It'll affect your ministry, trying to reach and help other people. Why would anybody want to know your Savior if you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders all the time? And friends, I'm telling you, there were a handful, maybe 5 passages that I anchored myself to when fighting cancer for a full year. And this was the first one. Actually, maybe the second one after Psalm 91. Casting all your care upon Him. It's an inevitable reality. You're going to have cares. Number 2, there is the instant response. What's that? Well, let the verse explain itself. Look at verse 7. Casting all your care. It's inevitable you're going to have cares, but here's what we're supposed to do with it. Don't hang on to it. The word casting is a word that means get rid of it like it's a hot potato. Remember that little game that kids used to play? Or you play as a kid, maybe your kids played it. I don't know how you play it. I think somebody had music going and you're tossing around some kind of little ball. You don't want it in your hands when the music stops. I know this, when I played baseball as a kid, I'd be out there on my position in the infield, and when the ball would come to me, I wouldn't take it and just sort of slowly throw it out of my hand over to the base where I'm supposed to throw it. I would cast it. I'd get out in a hurry to get it over there to where it belongs. That's the picture of what Peter is saying. Don't hang on to your care. Get rid of it immediately. The moment it comes into your life, say, Lord, this is not for me. This is sent by you. I don't understand it, but I don't have to understand it, and I'm casting it back towards you. Now, if you're thinking tonight, some of you are probably saying, Morris, as soon as I say, Lord, I don't want it, I'm going to give it back to you, it'll just come right back. Yeah, I know, so cast it again. You say, yeah, but it just it comes back and it haunts me again, and then cast it again. It wakes me up in the middle of the night. Yeah, I know. Wake up and say, Lord, I don't want it. I give it back to you. I'm not hanging on to this. You cast it on Him. You say, well, I don't understand what He's doing. Friends, you don't have to understand what God's doing. Let Him do what He's going to do. My son said, Dad, hang up the phone. I got it. You gave it to me. Quit trying to solve it on your own. I got it. Little boy trying to hang on to a briefcase. Son, let me have that. It's too heavy for you. All your anxiety, all your care, bring to the mercy seat. Leave it there. Never a burden He cannot bear. Never a friend like Jesus. Don't live for an explanation. You don't find your hope in understanding what God is doing. You find your hope in knowing that God knows what He's doing. You don't look for an explanation. You live in His revelation. I've said this many times. I told 2 or 3 people here this morning. I'm taking maybe a little more than I normally do in a message like this, because I know you as a church prayed for me. What Lynn and I went through, and we went through it together. I've said this to them, and I'll say it to you. I don't want to ever get cancer again. However, I would take nothing for what I learned during that year. Those quiet, listen folks, I had no schedule. I had no churches to go to. I had no, when do I preach again? What is the next meeting? All I had was, when do I go see the doctor again? And I devoured the Scriptures, and I devoured books that I've been wanting to read. And I had many a day in which I told Lynn, I said, I'm going to go for a walk. And she knew what I meant. We'll spend time with my Lord, just walk around. I loved to get up early in the morning, real early, before the sun was up, and to watch the sun come up, and to watch His creation come alive. I loved it. I loved to talk with Him, and to have no pressure of time. I loved it, and I missed some of that, to be honest with you. And I found my security not in knowing, what are you doing? I found security in knowing that He knew what He was doing. And He was carving something out in me that it just took time to take place. It's like me as a boy. I would sit on the floor and I'd be playing with my baseball cards, and my mom would be would be working with some kind of a cross stitch piece of fabric, and she'd be pushing those needles down through this tight fabric and going back up and down, up and down. From my angle on the floor looking up, all I saw was a bunch of strings hanging down from this round piece of metal and a piece of fabric she was working on. And all I could see was an ugly mess. And I told her, loving son that I was, I said, Mom, that sure is ugly. And she said, you don't know what I'm doing. I said, well, I don't know what you're doing, but it sure is ugly. She said, well, would you stand up and come over here? And I'd stand up and I'd come over and I'd stand beside her. And I looked down at what she was doing, and I realized, oh, that's a butterfly. Look at there. Oh, that's a mountain or a creek or a river or something that my mom was designing. I couldn't see it from my vantage point. There are times in my life and in your life I want to say, Lord, I don't know what you're doing, but it doesn't make sense. And He says, you don't know what I'm doing. Just let me work. I'm doing something that will stand for eternity's sake. Let me carve into you what needs to be done. There's the inevitable reality. You're going to have cares. There's the instant response. Cast it back on Him. I don't want to carry this. Some of us pray like this, like the old yo-yos, where you cast a yo-yo down and you flip it back up and it comes right back up. It's down and up and down. It's like we take our cares to the Lord and say, Lord, take this care. Lord, I'm hurting. Lord, I'm scared. Lord, I'm troubled. Lord, take this care. I'm really hurting. And I want to leave this with you. And then we pick it right back up and we carry it with us. Are you a yo-yo praying person? You think about the people who cast their cares upon the Lord in the Scriptures. Think about it. Can you see Hannah in the temple at Shiloh? I want a son. Oh God, I want a son so badly. And God said, I heard your prayer. You cast it on me. I'll take care of it. Can you see David fearful because his counselor Ahithophel had joined his son Absalom, and he was afraid of Ahithophel's counsel? He was saying, "Oh God, please turn his counsel away from Absalom because he's such a smart man. Oh God, keep him from it." And God said, "I'll take care of that since you gave it to me." Ahithophel went home and hung himself. Can you see Elijah saying, "Oh God, please send rain. You've not brought any rain for over 3 years, 3.5 years. Lord, send the rain." It took 7 times for them to check the clouds. They had to wait. Sometimes you have to wait. And after that 7th time, God says, "I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to bring a gully washer." The church gathered together in Acts chapter 12 and they prayed, "Oh God, please deliver Peter. Please, he's in prison. We don't know what's going to happen. Oh God, please get Peter out of prison. We're scared Herod's going to take his head off." And God said, "I heard that prayer." And Peter comes out. Peter was nudged awake. He had to be awakened by the angel. And you talk about a guy who had peace. He was sleeping. He could have lost his head the next day. And the angel said, "Wake up, son." And he wakes up. He says, "Come follow me." And they didn't even have the grocery store doors that opened up like that. But it happened back then. And Peter walked right through the prison door. He came down to Mary's house where they were having that prayer meeting. "Oh God, get Peter out of prison." And at midnight, he knocks on the door. "Who is it?" "It's me, Peter." You go read Acts chapter 12. Peter had to tell them to be quiet. They were making so much noise. They were hooping and hollering and crying. I think somebody invented the chest bump right then and there. They were some kind of pumped that God had heard their prayer. Why? Because they had cast their cares upon the Lord. What are you carrying tonight? There is the inevitable reality, the instant response. And I love this. The incredible reason to cast your cares on Him. What is that incredible reason? Verse 7 says, "For He careth for you." Sometimes it just helps to know somebody cares. And the ultimate one to know cares for you, He promises He cares for you. You say, yeah, but I don't feel like He cares for what I'm going through. Then tell your feelings to take a hike, because the Word of God promises He cares for you. But I think I've probably done enough to make Him to be, He's fed up with me. He said, "I will in no wise cast you out." That's a reference to salvation. It's a reference to the fellowship and the sweet relationship of you with Him as your Father. He will for no reason cast you aside. The psalmist had to talk to himself in Psalm 42 and verse 5 and also in verse 11. He said, "Why are you cast down, O my soul?" He's talking to himself. "Why are you cast down, O my soul? And why are you disquieted within me? Hope thou in God, who shall yet be the health of your countenance." He's telling himself, stop being distraught. Stop being depressed. Stop being somebody who's walking around like Eeyore with all the weight of the world on you. It couldn't get any worse. He says, because He cares for you. I told you a while ago the word casting all your cares is in the plural. Listen to this. "For He careth for you" is in the singular. You say, what does that mean? It means this. You can put your name in the margin of your Bible. He cares for Morris. He cares for me. He cares for you and you and you and you. Each individual, all the time. Again, I'm not a Greek scholar, but you study it, you'll find out that this is not a hypothetical statement. It is written in the voice and in the mood that tells you that it is real. It is not hypothetical, and it will always, underscore it, always be true. He cares for you. Nothing I can do can cause Him to stop caring for me. That's the incredible reason why you should take all your cares to Him. He cares for you. And He wants to hear the cry of your heart. God knows that you have a bill that you don't know if you can pay it this week. He knows. God knows your roof needs replacing of shingles or something. He knows. He knows your vehicle needs new tires, so take it to Him. He knows you're concerned about that doctor's report coming up, so cast it on Him. He cares. He knows you're concerned about your wayward son or daughter. You're not too sure where they are spiritually. He knows. So take it to Him and leave it there. Keep casting it on Him. 2018 was a year of testing that I will never forget. And most of the time I was able to stay on the upbeat side of things. Most of the time I was positive. There were days in weakness in which I said, God, I just don't have much strength left, both physically and emotionally. And I'm trying to rest in You. And God would give me anchors like this right here and remind me, I haven't stopped caring for you. And I would cling to it and anchor my life in it. When I was a small boy, there was a night in which I was at home by myself. Not by myself, I was at home with my mom and with my sister, just the three of us. My dad was gone. Some kind of business or some sort had caused him to be late in getting home, and he wouldn't get home until much later. And my mom thought she heard somebody breaking in our house. It was a weird, bizarre thing. I was like 5 years old. My mom thought she heard someone breaking in, and of course all she could think about was, I'm here without my husband, I'm here with two small kids, and what if someone's breaking in? Now, we never had anybody trying to break into our home, but she thought she heard someone jiggling the back door and trying to get in. She came running through the front part of the house where my sister and I were, and she started yelling that we needed to follow her. We got up and we went out through the front door, and we went to the neighborhood, to the neighbors, and we called the police, and that's when I found out that my mom thought she heard someone breaking in, and it was a fearful thing. I mean, think about it. I was a little boy. It was frightening. Well, the police came, went through our house. They didn't find anybody in there, and he came back across the street, and he said, "Now, Mrs. Gleiser," he says, "it's all clear. You can go home. There's nobody in your house." He said, "The back door is unlocked," and he said, I think he said it was a little bit open. He said, "But you can go home." And my mom said, "No." She said, "My husband's coming home soon. We're just going to wait on him." After a bit of time, Dad showed up again. It was just totally dark, and Dad showed up. We called him over to where we were at the neighbors, and we told him what had happened. And I watched my dad walk across the street and go back inside that dark house. I thought, that's the bravest man I ever knew. He walked inside that house, and after a bit, he came back, and he goes, "All right," he says, "we're clear, let's go. Everything's good, let's go in the house." Now, I'm telling you, as we were walking back across the street, I remember hanging onto my dad's pant leg as we walked across the street, and I said, Daddy, are you sure?" He goes, "Son, everything's fine." I said, "Daddy, did you check every closet?" You know, closets are big to little kids. I mean, they really are. I wanted to say, "Did you check Mom's closet?" I said, "All those shoes, I'm telling you." I mean, a guy could stumble around in there and get lost. I did. But I said, did you check every closet?" I did, son. There's nobody in there. And I said to him, "Did you look underneath every bed?" He goes, "I looked under every bed. There's nobody in the house." When we got inside the house, my dad said, "All right, it's time to go to bed." I thought, go to bed? Nothing. We'll not be going to sleep tonight. We'll all sit up, prepared for any particular danger that might come our way. There is no way we're going to sleep. I said, "Daddy, please." He said, "Son, you're fine. You're safe. Go to sleep." As a scared little boy, rest was the last thing on my mind. I laid down in my bed. I remember laying and looking out toward the hallway outside of my bedroom. I thought, if somebody comes into my room, I'll throw my baseball glove at him and scream all at the same time. And I remember thinking, don't even blink, because in the moment of that blinking, that man may be right on you in the moment of that quick blink. And so I was sitting there, my eyes were just bugged out, and then in the quietness of the house, after a bit of time, I heard someone walking down the hall. And then the light came on. And then standing right in front of my room was my daddy. And he was standing there and he was looking around, acting like he was checking the whole house out. What he was doing was he was trying to bring comfort to a scared little boy. And he looked around. He went back down to his room. I don't know how long it was, folks. I was just a 5-year-old kid. Maybe 30 minutes passed, maybe 45, I don't know. And next thing I knew, here comes Dad down the hall again. And he's standing right there in front of my room and he's looking around and I'm watching him. I would imagine he probably stole a look in there to see if I was looking at him. And I was still awake. He walked back down to his and Mom's room, and the third time he came back, the third time he was carrying a baseball bat. I got to tell you, I had mixed emotions at that point. I got to thinking, I wish somebody would break in now, you know. I like to see Dad tear into him with that baseball bat. Man, that'd be cool. And all I could think about was Dad's still awake. And the next thing I knew, it was morning. I fell asleep because Dad was watching. And your Heavenly Father is saying, I've got this. You got to care, you got to fear, you got to worry, you got anxiety, you're not sure about things. I got it. Just give it here. In fact, I gave it to you so you turn around and give it to me. I'm carving something in your life you don't even know about right now. I'm doing so. Just give it back to me. You and I are going to get closer than we've ever been before in your lifetime. Just give it back to me. Because no one's ever cared for you like I care for you. I'm done. But I repeat, it may be tonight that some of you don't have a care in the world. In fact, you almost brag about it. I don't have a care in the world. Okay? Just give it time. But some of you who will be more honest with yourself might be willing to say, the Lord told Morris to preach this tonight because I needed this. Oh God, I've been worried, I've been fearful, I've been frantic, I've been anxious. I've been troubled for some time or for a brief time, but oh God, I'm going to repeat what Peter told us to do. I'm going to cast it on you because I know you care for me.